Why do I do this to myself? Alright, so I've been in the camp for a long time that Floowandereeze is not actually all that bad, and it took me until the end of this format to actually test them out and come to a conclusion. Now I will say the deck is a lot more janky than it was without Barrier Statue. However, the deck does have interesting tech options and choices you can make, and it is actually kind of weirdly interactive. It's a very, very on your toes kind of deck. You never feel like you're ahead when you're playing this deck, but somehow you just come away with the game sometimes. Let's go ahead and get on into the deck profile. So we've got double M-Pen and one Snowl. Snowl's a little bit contentious, but it is actually a really good card. It's piercing, it's a quick effect Book of Eclipse, and it gives you 3 normal summons, which is actually really important. Sometimes you do actually want to make Snowl first. We've got one Avian and Ryza. These two are standard, as well as the double M-Pen. The Snowl's the only one that's a tiny bit contentious, but I think 5 is fine. Most people agree that 4 big birds is about what you want to run, but the 5th one's probably fine. Getting on to the little birds, this is all pretty standard. Triple Rabina, triple Eaglin, double Stree, and 1 Toucan. Double Stree because we always want another card to be able to reveal off of Jack in the hand. And if for some reason they know Floowandereeze and they do take the Stree for whatever reason, we always have a second one as a backup. Now we're playing double Simorgh Bird of Perfection. This just gives us additional normal summons, and it's actually really interesting because if you see something like Simorgh plus Eaglin, you're actually not dead. You can, normal summon Simorgh, grab the field spell, summon Eaglin effect, grab M-Pen, summon M-Pen, and then you can just go for like map or something like that. We've won Harpist. This is now the best card to summon off of Dreaming Town because it is actually an interruption when it's summoned. So we do play one of it just because it's kind of the best thing we can summon off Dreaming Town. Apart from our Mist Valley Thunderbird. So this is the Infinite Negates combo where you bounce the Thunderbird back to hand with Avian. Thunderbird's mandatory effect triggers to special summon itself from the hand, and then you just Infinite Negates. It's really difficult to set up. You have to have the Thunderbird in hand, have the Avian on field, and Dreaming Town into the Thunderbird. If you do that, then you can have the Infinite Negate boards. But if you don't, you can't, basically. We have 3 Ash Blossom. This is just the best hand trap we can play. It hits Branded really hard, it hits Kashtira really hard, it hits Sprite pretty decently depending on their hand. So overall, kind of just the best one we can play. And getting onto the spells, we have Triple Advent. This is such a good card. It's so insane. Obviously Floowandereeze players know this, but this also unbricks your hand with Eaglin, where you go normal summon Eaglin, activate effect, chain, Advent, banish the Eaglin, grab Rabina. You're off to the races, you're not bricked on anything, so really good. Triple Map, it's the field spell, it's so good. Additional normal summons, getting another level 1 bird and banish so you get more, effects, so good. We have 1 Ebors, you do have to play this with the 2 Simorgh. You could play a 3rd Simorgh, but I really just think 2 is necessary. And then the 1 Terraforming. We have 1 Unexplored Winds. Some people are playing 2, I don't think 2 is necessary. However, it is a really good card, putting cards back, drawing more cards, gets you to draw into floodgates, gets you to draw into interruptions, all that kind of stuff. But it's really the tributes that matter. Being able to tribute a card your opponent controls is just so good. We're playing triple Pot of Duality, and we are not playing Prosperity. If you're wondering why we're not playing Prosperity, that is because against Kashtira, if you Prosperity for 6, they can deck you out in 2 turns, which are 2 turns you usually don't have playing this deck anymore. So just Duality is fine, and we're supplementing it with 2 Jack in the Hand. Jack in the Hand is a really weird card because a lot of people see it's like, oh, you get to add a card, your opponent gets to add a card first, so they could take the card you want. But in reality, this is always just Rhoda for this deck because you just reveal, if you have Rabina, you reveal Eaglin, Stree, Toucan, and they always take the Eaglin. You have, Eaglin in hand, you reveal Rabina, Toucan, Stree, they always take the Rabina. But then this is fine because you go Eaglin, summon Stree, Stree, banish Jack in the hand that you already used, and you're just kind of fine, We have 1 Lightning Storm main deck. In theory, this is good. However, I think going forward, I would just sub this out for the 2nd Dreaming Town. There's a lot of times where I was like, I want to get to a 2nd Dreaming Town, and I can't. We have 2 Harpy's Featherstorm. Great card, absolutely insane. No monster effects for the rest of the turn, and it's a hand trap if you control a Harpy monster. which we're playing. Sometimes we just normal summon the Harpist, pass the turn, and Featherstorm. And then finally, we have the Floowandereeze and the Scary Sea. So I know what you're thinking. This is the card that nobody plays. I'm already playing the card that nobody plays, Snow. But Scary Sea? There's no way I'm correct. But if you think about it, the reason you weren't playing Scary Sea is it did everything that Barrier Statue did, but worse. However, now it's almost kind of better, because you have things like Kashtira, you have things like Sprite, things like Tenny Sword Soul, you have things like Labyrinth, all of them special summon monsters. This stops them from doing that. And then they get a bunch of normals, but Sprite does nothing if their monsters are normal. Kashtira can normal a bunch if they have Birth, but then, that's kind of it. They can't go into any of their strong XCs. Now, granted, Unicorn Fenrir is really strong, but you always have more interruptions with things like Harpist, with things like Ryza, you have a lot of things you could do. So, Scary Sea is actually really strong. It turn skipped a lot of my opponents, and it's a card that, because it's counter trapped, you can't really respond to it unless you have something like Judgment. It's a really strong card. I really suggest, if you're thinking about playing this deck, you have to really strongly consider Scary Sea. It is really good. So getting on into the side deck, we have one Dark Simorgh to pair with our triple anti-spell fragrance. This is what we side in against Trap Tricks, against Labyrinth, against Branded. Any deck that really needs their spells and traps, we side this in. If we see it, we're good. We just win. We have one DD Crow in the main deck. It is searchable off of Robina, so we might as well play it. And then we have triple Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries. So the reason we're playing triple Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries is because our extra deck doesn't matter, right? We are not playing Prosperity, but we probably still want to play an extra deck because just having this toolbox of Lyrilisks and Downward and Zeus and Anima, it all really matters. So we might as well use the extra deck as a toolbox and use Cherries to just kind of hit stuff out of the extra, Psychic End Punisher against Punks, Kashtira, Shangri-Ira, or Rise Heart against Kashtira, obviously. Sprint and Gigantic against Sprite, Trap Tricks Sarah against Trap Tricks, Branded, whatever we need, whatever we're scared of, we just hit it out of their extra deck and they're good. And this is actually really good going to the next format, because we can hit the Scarecrows out of Super Heavies, we can hit the Plump and the Noir out of Pearlies. I think Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries is a really good card and it needs to be considered. We've got triple Twin Twister, the other two Lightning Storm, and one Duster. Probably we just cut the second Lightning Storm for the Dreaming Town and say good. This is enough back row hate that we really don't have to worry about it. And then we have the third Harpy's Featherstorm. If we're going first, we side in the third one over Lightning Storm. Pretty simple. So going into next format, there are some options we can make. Obviously, like I said, we place in some more Cherries targets for the Super Heavy Samurais and the Pearly decks. But the biggest one we have is Time Tearing Morganite. Yeah, so this card. So this is an insane card. For those of you who have not read it, for whatever reason, I don't know what you're doing, but this is one of the decks that benefits the most off of this card. You get to draw 2 instead of 1 during your normal draw phase, and you get an additional normal summon every turn after you activate this card. And then, of course, if you already have used it, you banish this card from your graveyard and you discard another one. Your opponent can't activate monster effects when you normal summon, which means all of your guys are protected. The only thing that we cannot really play with this is the Ash Blossoms and the Thunderbird. Now, sure, losing the Infinite Negate Thunderbird loop isn't great. However, it's kind of a trade-off. Do we want more advantage and more resilience, or do we want a higher skill ceiling of, if we get off this one really specific combo, having Apex on the field, getting to Dreaming Town, searching the Thunderbird, and not having to summon any of our birds during our opponent's turn other than the Thunderbird, then yes, Time Tearing Morganite's bad. But if you don't get into that one very specific situation, it's pretty good. Time Tearing Morganite's pretty good. So you probably, like I said, you probably cut 3 Ash Blossom for Time Tearing, and I don't know, you could play this Third Jack in the hand for the Thunderbird, or you could play, anything you want. You could play a Thrust, you could play anything else. The world's really your oyster. So overall, this deck, This deck isn't good. I'm gonna say it right now. This is not meta. This is not tier 2. This is not rogue. This is just jank. This is just janky. It's kind of still a floodgate deck. You know, M-Pen plus Scary Sea really does a lot. Plus Avia Negate, plus Ryza, plus L, plus Ratio. You know, all that kind of stuff. Not that good. But if you really like birds, if you're a little bit of an ornithologist, you know, maybe you enjoy this deck. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace!